It's the beginning of August in 1981. The TV shows are all reruns. The music scene is starting to pull away from the 70s and give us an early glimpse of what awesome 80s music is going to be all about. And at the movies, two of the greatest films of all time, in my opinion, are at number 1 and number 2, and they both star the same guy. Who is it? Find that out as we take a trip back to August of 1981. Click the subscribe button and the bell and get ready. This Week in the 80s starts now. If you were headed out to the movies in August 1981, you really had two choices. It was the blockbuster, the amazing movie that everybody loves, or one of those movies that ends up on the Golden Globes and you think to yourself, that got nominated? I wonder why. Let's take a look at what we had. At number 15 this week, we had Zorro the Gay Blade. It cost them $12 million to make it, and it raked in $5 million in return. Not really what they were hoping for. But I'll tell you one thing, George Hamilton played Don Diego de la Vega. He also played the twin brother, Bunny Wigglesworth. He got a nomination for it from the Golden Globes. Number 14 this week gave us Wolfen. Not the fun teen wolf that we all love from a little bit later in the 80s. This one stars Albert Finney and Gregory Hines, and also a really young Edward James Olmos. It's a cop show, and they're chasing a wolf. It cost them a lot of money to make. It didn't make a lot of money, and nobody really thought it was any good, except, of course, the critics. Roger Ebert gave it 3.5 out of 4 stars, which means people like me and you are going to hate it. And we did. Once in a while, a film comes along, and I'm looking at the list and thinking to myself, I think I saw that, but I'm going to watch it again to make sure. Number 13 this week is Student Bodies. Student Bodies is a parody. It's a spoof on all the slasher films. In the Friday the 13th movies, you always have Jason in the background breathing heavy. So throughout this entire movie, the killer is just some dude breathing heavy. It's a spoof, but it's really, really bad. A bunch of high school kids probably put this one together. So I watched it. All right, let's give it a chance. Let's just see if maybe it's better than I think, or maybe no. Listen, it's terrible. You got to see it. This is another one of those. I bring up all the time. I say this movie's really bad, and you have to see it because this was in the theaters. You have to imagine somebody went and paid. They're looking at what's available. You know what? I'm going to go see that one, and they end up sitting there for an hour and a half or something, sitting through this terrible movie. So you just got to give it a chance. If you hate it as much as I did, you're going to love it. Rocky 2 was already in the theaters. Rocky 3 was on the way, and Sylvester Stallone needed something to do. So at number 12, we have Victory. Victory is the story of a soccer game between the Allies, prisoners, and the Axis, captors, during World War II. It's based on a true story. A lot of stories came out about this later on, about how the team who lost all got shot and all that. None of that actually was true, but this movie did pretty well. Number 11 has a movie that would never be made today and would certainly never make it into the movies today. It's called Endless Love. It starred Brooke Shields and Martin Hewitt. On the movie poster, which you can see right there, it says, she is 15, he is 17, the love every parent fears. Yeah, especially with Martin Hewitt. Who's Martin Hewitt, you say? He turned out to be a B actor and quit acting a little bit later. This is the film debut of someone else you may know, Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise has a minor role in this one. Some actors are able to break out of their typecast. Tom Hanks started out on Bosom Buddies and Bachelor Party and ended up being one of the greatest dramatic actors that I've ever seen. Others kind of get stuck and they just keep getting the same roles over and over, and we get tired of them and they're gone. See Steven Seagal, for example. Chuck Norris had enough of being Mr. Kicky Punchy Chuck Norris. Mr. Kung Fu Chuck Norris wanted to do something else. He wanted to do something a little bit bigger, something a little more important that had more depth to the character than just Kung Fu. Welcome to Eye for an Eye. The only problem with this is Chuck Norris really isn't that great of an actor. And please don't tell Chuck Norris I said that, because he'll probably just come and knock on my door. In fact, he probably just heard me say that, so I probably should end this quickly. Let's get to it right away. An Eye for an Eye is not a very good movie. It's Chuck Norris trying to be a good actor and not that much Kung Fu going on, and it bombed terribly. Let's move on. Are you kind of getting the feeling that I was when I was looking over this list? It's like bad movie, bad movie, bad movie. Who was that? I never heard of that one. Who's in that? It just keeps going until we get to the top, which I'll get to in a second. Here's another one for you. Under the Rainbow. Number 9 at the box office. It had Chevy Chase, Carrie Fisher, Bill Barty, and it bombed. It's about a bunch of little people trying to get to Hollywood to audition for The Wizard of Oz. One of the biggest problems was it was full of a bunch of sight gags involving little people, and they don't like that. Up next is Blow Away. John Travolta and Brian De Palma team up for a movie that the critics loved, but the commoners just did not. It's sort of a film noir cinematic victory, and you know what? We weren't looking for that. We were looking for fun stuff. It's the summertime, man. Don't give us this heavy business. Critics, absolutely. 4 stars all over the place. People, nope. At number 7, we've got Superman 2. I told you earlier I was watching Student Bodies and I turned it off. I turned this one on instead. I was really excited because the critics loved it and the people loved it. It was supposed to be a better movie than the first one. I mean, I love the bad guys. They're kind of fun and they make you laugh a bit, but it's a fine movie. The graphics are not very good. In fact, I might go so far as to say that they're terrible. But the story's fun and the bad guys are fun. And it's got Lex Luthor and he's great. Number 6 is Arthur. A lot of changes came down before it hit the theaters. First, they had Dudley Moore using an American accent. After a while, he convinced him that he was so bad, he should be able to speak with his English accent. So they rewrote that part of the script. Also, it wasn't Liza Minnelli originally playing the female lead. It was Deborah Winger. At least that's who they wanted. She turned it down. She was fresh off her super wins with Urban Cowboy and was looking forward to An Officer and a Gentleman. So she didn't miss out on much. The Academy Awards were pretty good to Arthur as well. Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Screenplay, Best Original Song. All of those were nominated. They won on Best Actor and Best Original Song. Christopher Cross's Arthur's Theme, Best That You Can Do. That was written by Burt Bacharach. Arthur's one of the heavy-hitting movies at the top that I was talking about earlier. We got 5 left, and 4 of them are amazing, and one of them is so incredibly bad, you've got to see it. Number 5 on the list is Stripes. Everybody loves Stripes, right? You love what it is now. Maybe you wouldn't have loved it if it came out like it was originally planned. Ivan Reitman wanted this to be a Cheech and Chong movie. He actually had Cheech Marin and Tommy Chong penciled in for the top 2 characters. Well, it was all written for them, and Cheech and Chong loved the idea, but they wanted complete control, and Ivan Reitman wasn't giving that up. So he told them to kick rocks and gave it to Harold Ramis and Bill Murray instead. Can you believe that number 4 was a cartoon? It was Heavy Metal. This is basically cartoon porn. It's really strange the stuff that they got away with in the early 80s putting in the theaters. They'd never get away with that today. Heavy Metal was a big screen adaptation of a lot of the stories that were in the Heavy Metal magazine, or graphic novel, some people might say, or comic book, others may say. It was a magazine. Ivan Reitman produced it and got John Candy and Harold Ramis to be involved. Eugene Levy also. The animation was incredible for the time anyway. It did okay. Number 3 at the box office in early August 1981 was Tarzan the Ape Man. I don't know if there's ever been a good Tarzan movie. And we all know the story, but like, do we need it on the big screen? And so they tried it a little bit differently on this one. They made it Tarzan the Ape Man, but it was originally called Me Jane. It's really about Jane, Tarzan's girlfriend. They got Bo Derek to play Jane, and that was a big deal at the time. She's coming in off her 10 movie, which, I mean, basically it's just Bo Derek on a beach in a bikini. There's nothing wrong with that. But then they tried putting her in the jungle, and they tried sexing her up in like loincloths and stuff. The whole thing just fell completely apart. It was a total bust. It was nominated for a bunch of Razzies, including Worst Picture, Worst Director, Worst Actor, Worst New Star, Worst Screenplay, and Bo Derek won for Worst Actress. It did end up making a lot of money, $20 million in 3 weeks, but that's just because people wanted to see Bo Derek on the big screen again, not because they were there for the fantastic story. We've got 2 movies left on this list, and they're both my favorites. Not my all-time favorites. It's tough to pick one movie that's just your favorite movie. But these would definitely be in the top 20 if I were to list them. Number 2 on the list, Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. It had already grossed $196 million, and they re-released it, and it rocketed up to the top. I mean, if you compare to the other movies that are on this list, it's no surprise that it did so, but it really is just such an amazing movie. Re-releasing it made sense. This is 1981. There's no Blockbuster. There's barely any cable channels that are offering movies. HBO was around at the time and probably Showtime. But it's not like people were buying these movies and bringing them home. Movies back then, if you want to buy them, were like $100. So you go and you see the movie again and again. You know, in the end, when they put Han Solo in the carbonite, He was originally supposed to get on the Millennium Falcon and fly away with his friends, but Harrison Ford hadn't committed to Return of the Jedi yet, or Revenge of the Jedi, as it was supposed to be called. So George Lucas didn't want to have his character kind of twisted in the wind. So George Lucas decided to rewrite it, freeze him in carbonite, and make that problem go away. Harrison Ford took the bait. He ended up signing on for number 3. They unfroze him and the story continued. Bring me Solo and the Wookiee. And number 1 for August 7th, 1981, Raiders of the Lost Ark. They've renamed this Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, but it's really just called Raiders of the Lost Ark. Originally, Spielberg and Lucas wanted Tom Selleck, but Tom Selleck was already committed to Magnum PI on CBS. Lucas and Spielberg started blowing up CBS, telling them that they wanted to get Selleck out of the contract. They would pay to terminate the contract. They really wanted Tom Selleck to play Han Solo. Well, at this point in time, CBS says, if Spielberg and Lucas want this guy that bad, then we're keeping him. So they did. Harrison Ford got the role instead. It sort of worked out well for both guys. I know you're enjoying this trip back to the 80s with me, so make sure you click the subscribe button, the like button, and the bell. That way you get notifications when new shows come up. On the radio in 1981, it was an interesting time. We're really starting to move away from the 70s disco vibe, if you will, and going to start breaking into some good 80s music. 80s kids love 80s music. We love the one-hit wonders. We love the hair bands. We love the rock and roll. There's a lot of 70s stuff that's laying over here in 1981 that just really is skippable. From 40 to 30, there isn't a song that I would list as, hey, that's a good song. A couple of bands you'll know, but nothing that's going to end up on any playlist that you're going to listen to for a long time. I'm not going to spend all that much time going over 40 to 30 because there really isn't that much to talk about. But here's the list anyway. If I'm wrong, which, I very rarely am, I'm always wrong. If I'm wrong about this, let me know in the comments if a song stands out that you love that I'm just going to blow off. I've listened to these playlists. In fact, make sure you find the playlist here on my channel. And these songs just don't stand out. They're not awesome 80s songs, even though they were in early 80s. Number 40, That Old Song by Ray Parker Jr. The only old song I know by Ray Parker Jr. is Ghostbusters. 39, Hold On Tight by Electric Light Orchestra. I know a bunch of ELO tunes. Hold On Tight at number 39. They should have held on tight to one of the other songs. 38, Step by Step by Eddie Rabbitt. Eddie Rabbitt loves a rainy night. I never really got much into country music, and Eddie Rabbitt was more country than he was rock. I love A Rainy Night's a great tune. Step by Step, pass. 37, Everlasting Love, Rex Smith and Rachel Sweet. Everlasting Love has been done by just about everybody. There's a few covers on this list that we're going to talk about, and you're going to be surprised. Everlasting Love, it's a fine song. Number 36 is You're My Girl by Frankie and the Knockouts. Frankie and the Knockouts had a bunch of hits in the early 80s, and I've listened to basically all of them, and I have yet to find one that I thought to myself, hey, that's a good song. I wish I'd known it for a long time. Sorry, Frankie and the Knockouts, you're out. 35, Don't Want to Wait Anymore by The Tubes. The Tubes are a one-hit wonder, but this wasn't the hit. The hit was She's a Beauty. 34, Love is a Two-Way Street by Stacy Lattisaw. Yeah, I'm going to guess that it is. I just don't really need that song to help me out with it. At 33, we have a very popular songwriter, but not one of his popular songs. Rock and Roll Dreams Come True is the song. The artist, Jim Steinman. Not familiar with Jim Steinman, you say? You know a lot of his songs. A lot of them are on Meatloaf's Bat Outta Hell. Meatloaf made Jim Steinman, or did Jim Steinman make Meatloaf? Either way, Rock and Roll Dreams Come True made number 33, and it's also forgettable. At number 32, we had Don't Give It Up by Robbie Patton. Some people really wanted this to be a big deal. Those people being people from Fleetwood Mac. It's produced by Fleetwood Mac's producer. It's got Lindsey Buckingham on guitars and Christy McVie as well. Didn't crack the top 30. 31 was Double Dutch Bus by Frankie Smith. Didn't do so well on the Billboard charts, but on the soul charts, this one hit number 1. The 30 to 21 block has a little bit of relief for us. There's some real 80s bands and a couple of real pure 80s songs. Number 30, Feels So Right by Alabama. Alabama is one of those bands that was sort of regional, and we didn't listen to a lot of Alabama in Boston, Massachusetts in 1981. So this wasn't really on our hit radio, but it was on a lot of them. Really Want to Know You by Gary Wright. Gary Wright's the Dreamweaver guy. He's still searching for another hit. This one wasn't one of them, but at least he was in the top 40. 28, Gemini Dream by the Moody Blues. I'm always going to consider the Moody Blues a 60s band. They're just kind of a little bit like psychedelic, if you will, but I mean, they're an all right band. It took us all the way to number 27 to get a great 80s tune. We've got Greg Kihn with The Breakup Song. This one has two meanings. It's complaining because breaking up's hard to do. It's also complaining because there are no songs for breaking up anymore. Both are pretty relevant even today. At number 26, we've got Fire and Ice by Pat Benatar. It seems like in the early 80s, Pat Benatar could do no wrong. Any song they wanted to promote for her went right up the charts. 25 from her debut album, Belladonna, Stop Dragging My Heart Around, Stevie Nicks, along with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. At 24, we had REO Speedwagon with Don't Let Him Go. REO had a lot of songs, and they all kind of sound the same to me. I think of them more as a 70s band than an 80s band, but they did have some pretty big hits in the 80s as well. 23, Pablo Cruz with Cool Love. 22, Who's Crying Now by Journey. I always thought that this was the Van Halen song, Jamie's Crying, and I mixed them up all the time. I still do. 21, you want to talk about 80s music? You want to talk about a song that we can claim as 80s kids and 80s fans that one belongs to us? How about In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins? This was his debut single. He put out his album Face Value and decided, you know what, I'm going to release In the Air Tonight first. And boy, what an idea that was. There's a lot of stories that get told about In the Air Tonight, about how Phil Collins watched someone drown, or how he was standing by and someone else was trying to help someone from drowning, and how he heard a story about somebody drowned. And the story just went on and on. They ask Phil about it all the time, and he always says the same thing. It's not true. He actually says that he doesn't know what the song's about. He has many songs that have many meanings. He said it's an angry song for sure, but the whole idea of the drowning part, he doesn't even know where that came from. In the Air Tonight has got to be on everybody's, top 25 greatest 80s songs of all time. Did you just picture yourself doing the drum solo? Because I did. All right, 20 to 10. Let's see what we got. 20, Urgent by Foreigner. I love Foreigner. Foreigner is a band that you can put on, you can crank up, and you can get 15 songs in a row and not even want to skip one of them. Foreigner rocks. Whether it's Urgent or anything off, actually, the Foreigner 4 album is fantastic. Don't forget, this album also had Jukebox Hero on it. Probably should go listen to it right now. Wait a second, you don't even need to. Just wait until you're done watching this video and switch over to the playlist section. I'm going to have it there for you. Number 19, Sweet Baby by Stanley Clarke and George Duke. I'll tell you something about Sweet Baby by Stanley Clarke and George Duke. Skip it. 18, The Stroke by Billy Squier. The Stroke by Billy Squier was Billy Squier at his best. This song just flat out rocks. The Stroke is playing in Billy Madison when he pulls up in front of the high school thinking he's just Mr. Cool. And he's got the Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am, and he's got his jean jacket, and he flips the collar up, and everyone just looks at him like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? You know what I thought? Man, that dude's cool. I'd do it today. Number 17 is an interesting song to have on any list. You always have to remember that these songs were on the radio. It's not like we were switching back and forth between all the different services that we have. You had 5 or 6 radio stations to choose from, and that was about it. MTV at this time was only a week old, so it's not like they were really drawing all that many views. At number 17, we had It's Now or Never. You know the It's Now or Never song. Picture Elvis singing it, right? Now picture Bo Duke singing it. Nope, not joking. John Schneider with It's Now or Never. Find this one on the playlist as well. You can actually just imagine Bo Duke singing it because John Schneider's voice sounds the same whether he's singing or talking. I don't think it's a very good song, but you might think differently. Number 16, Touch Me When We're Dancing by the Carpenters. I'm not really sure what the Carpenters are doing on the charts in 1981. I guess somebody had to be there, and certainly wasn't going to be John Schneider with It's Now or Never. So the Carpenters are there. Pass on those guys. 15, the Alan Parsons Project with Time. These guys are just psychedelic. They're soft-spoken. It's like they're just trying to put us to sleep. If you're looking for something to make you move, number 14 is here for you. It's Lady, You Bring Me Up by the Commodores. This song will make you dance, no doubt about it. This is a chart from the early or mid 80s. That means we need some Daryl Hall and John Oates, and that's what we get at number 13, You Make My Dreams. I'm pretty sure this is my favorite Hall and Oates tune. It just kind of rocks, and it's fun to sing along to as well. I want you to think of We Are the World right now. We Are the World's going to be a few years out from here. Think of all the amazing talents that are there and the different voices and the different lines that they had and everything that everybody contributed. It really was an amazing time for music. Obviously, that was the American version of Do They Know It's Christmas by Band-Aid. The Americans like, oh yeah, Brits, you guys think you can raise money for charity? We'll raise some money for charity. And they throw Springsteen and they throw Bob Dylan out there and Cyndi Lauper. And I mean, they didn't have Weird Al, which was too bad because that would have been cool. They did, however, have the artist from number 12, Kim Carnes. Betty Davis Eyes is quite a popular song. Everybody knows it. You can hear her gravelly voice singing it. Why'd they put her in We Are the World? Well, truth is, her producer was friends with that producer and just kind of slid her in there. And her contribution, as I always remind you, that's it. That's all she's got for you. I mean, that's 2 more words than I got in We Are the World. But that's terrible. Betty Davis Eyes, however, is a great song. 11, There's No Getting Over Me by Ronnie Milsap. There's no getting over the fact that Ronnie Milsap's at number 11 on the list. Don't know how that happened. You know what else I don't know how it happened? Air Supply's at number 10. You know, Air Supply was never shown on MTV. It's like when they were creating MTV, they're like, listen, this has to rock. This is music television. We need to bring people up. We need to crank it up. Don't ever play Air Supply. And they literally never did. I think it's true that they also very rarely ever got on VH1. They're just too soft. They might be nice guys. They're obviously great musicians, but that's not really what they were going for on MTV. Juice Newton and the Queen of Hearts is at number 9. What can you say about Juice Newton and the Queen of Hearts? It's a fine song. You probably know all the words. You don't want to get caught at a stoplight singing at the top of your lungs. Although these days, we don't even care. I'll do it. Number 8 was Hearts by Marty Ballin. I'm not really sure about this one. I'm not sure about a lot of songs on this chart. As I told you before, there are some great 80s tunes and other ones you just think to yourself, how the hell did that ever get in the top 10? Take a look at number 7, The Boy from New York City by Manhattan Transfer. That one, ooh-wah, ooh-wah, cool, cool kitty. Number 6, Slow Hand by the Pointer Sisters. I mean, I don't know how that ended up in the top 10. That had to be better stuff than that. Of course, number 5 is much better than that. Elvira by the Oak Ridge Boys. Go ahead and play this for someone today and tell them this is a great song that was in the top 5 when you were younger. They won't even believe it. It's a crazy song. It's super fun to sing, though. I dig it. At number 4, we have Kenny Rogers, who's just letting you know that he's not interested any longer. I Don't Need You is the song. He's telling the woman the whole time he doesn't need her and she doesn't need him. I mean, we've all said that a bunch of times, but I never got in the top 5 for doing it. The top 3 are definitely 80s tunes, and we all love them. Number 3, the theme from The Greatest American Hero. This is one of the worst earworms ever. It's a great song, though, and it's a fantastic TV show. I watched it a bunch of times recently. I probably got through about 10 episodes. It didn't get boring. It's still a good time. And I never skipped the opening because that theme song's the best. At number 2, Endless Love. Soundtrack from Endless Love. Diana Ross and Lionel Richie. You probably know all the words and you don't know why. It's not a bad song. I don't know how it ended up in the top 2, though. Mercifully, we've reached the number 1 song. And this song is as 80s could ever be. And I love when this happens. I love when it's just such a great song, you can't even believe it. And it's number 1 for a reason. Last week it was number 1. This week it's number 1. Jesse's Girl by Rick Springfield. For television in the summertime, they just throw a bunch of reruns on. So I thought we'd take a look at what was on during the day. When I was a kid, we had 2 different options for ABC, NBC, and CBS. I could get the Boston feeds on 4, 5, and 7, and I could get the Providence feeds on 10, 12, and 13. I would watch a show on the Boston feed in the afternoon, and then the next afternoon, that same episode would be playing on the Providence feed. I really confused my mother, and she never figured out how I knew what they were going to say next and what was going to happen. What was on television? Well, let's see what ABC had for us. 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, The Love Boat. I'll never forget the day that I figured out that the people they're introducing at the beginning are going to be part of the stories. And there were going to be 3 stories and it's all going to be resolved at the end. I thought I was so smart. From 12 to 12:30, ABC gave us Family Feud, Richard Dawson making out with everybody. 12:30 to 1 o'clock, Ryan's Hope, All My Children, One Life to Live, General Hospital. That's the same today. CBS gave us The Jeffersons from 10 to 10:30, Alice from 10:30 to 11. Of course, CBS, The Price is Right's on from 11 to 12. And we had The Young and the Restless, As the World Turns, Search for Tomorrow, Guiding Light. On NBC, Las Vegas Gamut was on from 10 to 10:30. Blockbusters 10:30 to 11. From 11 to 11:30, NBC gave us Wheel of Fortune. I used to love the Wheel of Fortune back in the old style when they used to have the people buy stuff. I always wanted someone to buy that big Dalmatian. Nobody ever did. 11:30 to 12, Password Plus. Then we had Card Sharks and The Doctors, Days of Our Lives, and Another World. Pretty basic stuff, but it wasn't bad. Comedies, game shows, soap operas. Sounds like a day home from school to me. Looking back on 1981, we had some really big time movies, some super 80s one-hit wonders, and some fun shows on television. It probably isn't the best example of everything we love from the 80s, but it certainly had a lot of things that were very 80s. Make sure you check the playlist section here on my channel so you can listen to the amazing songs that I just broke down for you. Roll your eyes with me. It's still fun. I mean, it's 80s music. It's better than anything that's being played today, right? Click the subscribe button, click the like button, and make sure you click that bell. Down below this, got a whole bunch of links for you to follow and enjoy. I'll see you next week for more This Week in the 80s. All right, here we go. Let's get this party started right. Don't say things like party. People won't understand what you're saying. Let's get this party started. If you were headed out to the movies in August of July 1981, you basically had two choices. I remember seeing this one. No, I don't. Best actor, best supporting actor, best scream actor. The actor. He told them to kick Brock's. It still made a whole bunch of bunnies. It made a whole bunch of bunnies. It's just multiplying by what the hell? It took us to get what? It took us to get punched in the face. And Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford had not committed to being in the next film. Shawing better. And number one, win. Wow. Lindsey Buckingham and Christy McVie are both on it, and it still couldn't even get in the crack. It couldn't get in the crack. Don't get in the crack, Jack. And she's doing herself proud with this tongue. She's out having some salad. At number 6, how we get to number 6? We're in the 20s. It's a crazy song, but it's super fun to sing. Superman. You know, you're driving, you got, I always say, you got the